much. I appreciate it. What's going on? What's going on? What's going on, everybody? Thank you for joining me today. Little AHA takeover with Stephen Michael. Loosen this up a little bit. A little hot. Thank you for joining. I appreciate it. I know that it's Sunday. Some of y'all already went to church. Maybe you want to relax. We're gonna go to church again here in a second. We're gonna take it back. Right, but we're gonna be talking a little bit about your mind and some things that may be stopping you from getting the things that you want in your future because of your past, the way that your mind works, your mindset. As you all saw the title of this video, we're going to be doing the last call to the JR-72. The title. Oops, sorry. Right, so we're going to be doing the last call to the JR-72. So as some of you know, a lot of you should know, JR-72 actually kicks off tonight at 7 p.m. Central, and we'll be back live on YouTube for everyone that's in the challenge with the whole coaching team. So, but this is the last call. I wanted to give you guys one last shot to join. Love the green jacket. Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. So, this is it's Fabletics. It's I've been rocking with them for 2 years, and they basically are they're like a workout brand. I guess you would consider them, what's the term? I forget what it is. It's basically like workout and leisure, athletic leisure wear. So you can use it to work out, but they're so nice. I don't want to work out in their clothes. So I just use them for leisure. But thank you very much. I do appreciate it. Thanks everybody for joining. I see you guys coming in on Facebook. See you coming in on YouTube. So thank you. But we're going to be here for about 30 minutes or so. I'm not going to be here all night because, like I said, we do have the other live coming up. But I want to talk a little bit, and I put together some information to present to you. So this is going to be a little different than like the normal live where we're just kind of talking. I've put together a little bit of information, so I will be doing a little bit of reading and kind of discussing a few things. But for some of you that know me, some of you that don't know me, I do specialize in more of the mental aspect of fasting and wellness. It is really my specialty. I have a certification in teaching emotional intelligence. And so not only do I understand it, I teach it. So that's why you hear me talk about emotions a lot and the way that our mentality works. And I like to take that information from my teaching, and I like to then put that and mix it with fasting and wellness, right? So you can take information that you learn professionally, and then you can use that information, and then you can apply it to certain facets or parts of our life, and then we can cause things to make sense. So that's what I like to do. I like to take information from, things that I've learned and things that I teach, and then I like to bring it into a space where it makes sense for us, so that way we understand why we may be struggling with getting the results that we want through our wellness journey. So that is essentially what I do. And if you've ever worked with me or if you've ever worked in any of our challenges, you will see that this is kind of how I work. Okay. So like I said, I put together a little bit of a presentation. It's not like a PowerPoint or anything like that, but I'm going to be doing a little bit of reading. So just so that you know. Okay. I know a lot of you are sitting in the chat. If you can do me a favor and just click the little X button and hit the like button for me, so that the algorithm picks this up and it kind of starts to spread it to the rest of the AHA community. I'd appreciate it. So even if they don't catch it now, I know the football is on. right? Maybe they'll catch it later. So once again, I'm not going to be here very long, but I want to do a little monologuing so people get a second to jump in. And but we're going to go ahead and get started. So once again, thank you very much, and I do appreciate it. So let's get into your mind a little bit. Let's talk about your mind, and let's talk about how some of your past experiences or how your experience in your past is affecting or can affect your future self or the future of you, right? And when we're talking about this in regards to like weight loss or fat loss or with fasting or with dieting, we have to understand why we may be hitting some roadblocks, but not just understanding the why, but that is very important. When you have an understanding of why something is happening, then it makes it much easier to wrap your mind around it. And then you can start to figure out then how to unsolve or solve this puzzle. Okay. So that's like one of the reasons that when we go to the doctor or, people ask me for help or something, a very common question is, if you go to the doctor and the doctor says, well, you have X, Y, and Z, right? And you have an issue, you have arthritis in your wrist. And the doctor says, why? Or I'm sorry, you say why, right? And then, of course, they explain why the arthritis may occur, right? They explain what causes arthritis. Well, hopefully they do, right? And ideally, they would then give you, well, this doesn't happen, but ideally, they would give you then a treatment plan that would help you to resolve that or then heal that. Well, unfortunately, we understand that that's not typically what happens. Usually, it's going to be something like a pharmaceutical. When I had massive inflammation in my wrist, I call it explosive inflammation. It was technically labeled as tendinitis, but it was like way worse than just normal tendinitis. And the doctor basically just said, "Well, you got to just take Tylenol. I think it was like 500 milligrams or something of Tylenol every day, right? We know how dangerous Tylenol is." And then you just wear these wrist bracelets. So I wore wrist bracelets for almost a year, and I took Tylenol every single day, right? Now, obviously, there's consequences to each one of our actions. Every one of our actions has a consequence. We're going to talk about that just a little bit later, but each one of our actions, no matter what it is, has some sort of a consequence. But when I went there to the doctor, there was no healing or treatment plan. He just said, yeah, just wear this bracelet and, hopefully the body will heal itself. There's nothing else there. He couldn't tell me why it happened or anything. If we understand the reason that we're struggling, or we understand their health is going awry for some reason, then we can then find a way to wrap our mind around it, and then we can find a way to move forward. But it's very difficult to move forward if we don't understand the reasoning or why something may be happening. So today we're going to be discussing why it may be difficult for you to wrap your mind around doing things that you may have tried in the past and you are not able to do now. Or maybe you have been successful at something in the past and now you're not able to do it now. But once again, as I stated earlier, we're going to be using this in the sense of fasting, weight loss, the things that we talk about in the AJ community. Okay. Salutations, Will from within. Salutations. What language is that? Is that Italian? I think so. I don't know. All right, let me blow this up a little bit so I can see it. All right. Okay. So this, I'm going to read an excerpt from a medical article. It's from the National Library of Medicine, and I'm going to break it down just a little bit. Right. This is one of those parts where not this part, but this lesson or this live may be something that you want to have a pen and paper for. There may be some new information here for you. Just something to think about, right? We're doing a little learning here. So let's get into this, right? People who have behaved in a certain way at one point in time are likely to do it again. Nothing groundbreaking there. We understand that, right? There are, of course, many exceptions to this general rule. For example, a behavior is unlikely to be repeated if the consequences of performing the behavior, if the first time were disastrous. So if you do something and the consequences of that behavior or the outcome of that behavior were absolutely disastrous, you're less likely to do that behavior again. For example, I made these like gluten-free, fat-free, vegan, if you want to call them, but they didn't use any like vegan junk food products. But they were like this Brazilian cheese bread. There was no cheese in it, but they were made with potatoes. And I followed the recipe exactly as I was supposed to. And I felt like when I finished the recipe and I tried them, I was just like, this didn't come out the way that I expected, right? I felt like that it was quite disastrous. I didn't like it used tapioca flour, which is supposed to help the potato be kind of gummy and stretchy to kind of mimic that cheese without having to use like vegan cheese products, things like that. And I said, this does not come out good at all. And I said, I'm probably never going to make this again, right? So our mind, typically the way it works is that we will continue to do something or something we've done in the past, we will continue to do in the future. Once again, but there's an exception to this. If we do something and then that situation or that behavior, the consequence of it was disastrous, right? In this situation, that potato was horrible. And I wasted my money buying the tapioca flour. I wasted my potatoes. I had to drive to the store, right? I wasted all my precious ingredients. And I'm like, this turned out horrible, right? Now, I don't know if I made a mistake, but I checked back with our group and everyone's like, no, that's the way it should be. And I'm like, okay, I just don't like them. But for me, they were disastrous. So I'm probably not going to make them again, right? And if you take this information, you think about it, you think about your own life, you've done this before also. There's things in your life that you have done or tried, and then they've been disastrous, and you're like, never doing that again, right? Now, moreover, situational factors that did not exist when the behavior was first performed may prevent its occurrence. Remember that. Still, all things being equal, people's past actions are often a good predicator of their future behavior. Right? So let's go back just a second. So situational factors that did not exist when the behavior was first performed may prevent its recurrence. So things that were the situation that you were in when that behavior arose, right? If it was a good situation and you went through it, then you may have had positive outcomes. If it was a bad situation and you went through it, you may have had not positive outcomes. It's not necessarily the fact that the behavior, but the situation surrounding the behavior and where your mindset was at the time when you went through that certain behavior can play a major role if you're going to do it again. That's very important to remember, right? The way or the environment or the situation that you do that behavior in may determine the outcome and if it will happen again, right? So that just, of course, just reinforces letting us know that reinforce the thought that the situation or our environment plays a very pivotal role in the way that we behave and the way that we go about things, okay? So, for example, if you have gone through a process where you were trying to get a new job or you were trying to, start school and you weren't supported, or the situation was in an environment where, there wasn't anybody around you going to school and everybody was saying, oh, you don't need to take classes. You don't need that. Just go get a job, start working hard. You can make money, right? And then maybe you never end up going to school. But then maybe a few years later, your situation changes, not even financially, just the people that you're around. And then somebody mentions going to school. And then you're like, you know what? I was going to do that a few years ago, but I just decided probably wasn't the best for me. But then now, because the environment is different, right? The people around you are different. Now you feel like you can go and then you're successful, right? So not only do our past decisions play a role in how we move or how we behave in the future, but our environment does as well. Does that make sense? All right, just checking the chat here, make sure I ain't got nothing here. Make sure you ain't got no question, okay? All right, let's keep going. So why is this, right? In many instances, the consistency of a person's behavior over time is a result of two things: personality, which is in and of itself has a huge, what impacts our personality is huge. Environmental factors, the way that we are raised, our parents, the color of our skin, our religious beliefs. There's so many things that play into our personality. The traumas that we experience, the traumas that we don't experience, did we cope with them? What age were we? All these things play into your personality, right? And then motivational factors. So what was it that motivated you to then exhibit this behavior? What was it that motivated you to go out and run for the lacrosse team, or go out and try out for the football team, or go rob that liquor store, or whatever it may be? What was the motivating factor? Did you need money? Were you trying to be famous? Were you trying to make it to the NFL so you can retire your parents, right? What were the motivating factors? Your personality and the things that are motivating you are going to greatly impact your behaviors that you exhibit on a day-to-day, right? Now, these factors, so motivational factors that are common to the situations which behaviors occur. For example, it might reflect the influence of a priori belief about the consequences of the behavior that are independently activated each time the behavior is contemplated. That's a mouthful, right? Basically, what this says is the way that you think can largely influence or determine a specific outcome, right? So that word priori, you can look that up, but that's what this means. The way that you think can largely influence or determine a specific outcome. So not only just how your action, but just simply the way that you think. Write that one down. The way that you think can largely influence or determine a specific outcome. Now, that shouldn't, once again, be groundbreaking, but I asked you to write it down because I want us to remember that. This doesn't have anything to do with fasting in particular, doesn't have anything to do with any one thing in particular. In general, this is something that is like a life lesson. The way that I think, right? The way that I think largely influences or determines specific outcomes in my life. That's how I would write that note for myself, okay? Alternatively, a casual influence of one's behavior on another can also occur. So we can be influenced by other people as well, and we know this. Sometimes, for example, people who have performed a certain behavior might later think about its possible consequences. And these post-behavior cognitions, or the post-behavior reflection, could guide their future actions. So if you did something in the past, or you exhibited behavior, and let's say that things went okay, but they could have gone bad, you still in the future may not do it again because you knew what could have happened, right? This is all coming from a protective method or protected methodology in the brain, right? In other instances, people might use their past behavior as a problem-solving basis for later decisions, right? So that's what that simply breaks down to. So where does all this come from? Right? This is a medical article, so I read it, and then but I also was trying to break it down and make it make sense. So in basic terms, so that we can understand it. But what all of that is basically saying is once again simply the way that you think and the way that you behave is going to largely play the largest factor that plays a role into that is our personality, our motivational beliefs, the people around us, the environment that we're in, and it will determine the way that we then act and our actions in the future, right? And then, of course, our past experiences, the things that we've experienced in the past, the things that we have then picked up from others. So we will pick up others' experiences. It was in here too, but it didn't say it that way, but it's here, right? But we will pick up the experience from other people, and those will then be absorbed in our brain. And then we will use their experiences to help shape or change our behavior in the future also, right? That's very important to remember. Where does all of this happen? Because this is not something we just think about on a day-to-day, but it has to happen in the brain somewhere. So where does this happen? Good evening, y'all. Oh, yeah, you like the jacket? What size? It's a large. What you want? You trying to take my jacket? I might take it off. It's getting a little warm in here. I'm getting going. Let me see here. So where does all this happen? It happens in one place. It's called the subconscious. Okay. All of this happens in the subconscious, and it's not something that we have the necessarily ability to control. I like to use the word influence because there are cognitive things or conscious things that you can do to then influence the subconscious, but the subconscious regulates itself. Okay. Our subconscious mind records absolutely everything, literally everything. By the time that you reach 21 years old, it is said that you would have recorded, or the subconscious would have recorded 100 times more than the entire Encyclopedia Britannica altogether. Right? If you know, years ago, before the internet and all this, right, you had encyclopedias, and they were labeled A, B, C, and you had maybe D and E together, right? Late you get down to like K and J, things like that. They have them together, right? But the whole volume of books, your subconscious, by the time you're 21, has recorded over 100 times more information or data than the entire volume. All of that information is literally just stored in the brain. Your subconscious is a hard drive. That's the best way to explain it. It's a hard drive. And with a hard drive, the job of the hard drive is to store information. And then when that information is needed, then you can go get that information. So for example, we record videos and we do all kinds of work. Everything that AHA records or has done is stored essentially on a hard drive, right? Not just one, but through all the networks, right? Different hard drives. Everyone has a hard drive. And then what happens is if we need something, or if there's a video from 5 years ago, 3 years ago, whatever, and we need something, it's not on the computer. We go then to the hard drive and we pull it up. And then when we pull it up, we download it back to the computer. And then you can now manipulate that. So you can post it on social media. You can break it up and make reels and TikToks and clips, right? There's so many things you can do with that information. But the hard drive job is to safely store things, and then it puts out information that it was requested for. So there has to be a request for information from the hard drive. So me, the user, would request information, and your conscious brain or your subconscious does both of those. It stores the information, and then it picks up signals from your outside world, your environment, everything that you have going on in life, and then it pulls that information from the hard drive and it brings it up to your attention, and then now it goes from the subconscious to now conscious. Okay, so the job of the subconscious, once again, is to store and retrieve data. Right? Its job is to ensure that you respond. Listen to this. Its job is to ensure that you respond exactly the way that you are programmed. Your subconscious mind makes everything you say and do fit a pattern of consistent behaviors with your own personal self-concept. I'll read that one again. The function of your subconscious mind is to store and retrieve data. Its job is to ensure that you respond exactly the way that you are programmed. Your subconscious mind makes everything you say and do fit a pattern of consistent behaviors with your self-concept. This once again links back to personality, right? Talk about personality and motivational factors. Your personality is you create your personality based upon all different kinds of factors, right? The way that you were raised, your parents, your beliefs, your health, right? Your environment, the way that you eat, or the way that you were fed as a child. All of these things create your personality. Matter of fact, it happens so early. By the time that you are 7 years old, they have determined that they know who you are essentially going to be by the time you are 7 years old. Up until 7 years old, you're literally recording information, you're recording data, and then at 7 years old, you now change, right? It's like they're downloads that you're getting, and you're downloading information to your brain, you're downloading programs, and then at 7 years old, now the programming turns on, and then that is then who you become, right? The term programming, it sounds bad, but that's literally what it is, right? We all, if you have children, you understand that children are recorders. Be careful what you say around children because they're listening. They're recording everything, right? This is why you have children that look like their parents. They sound like their parents. They talk like their parents, right? Everything, because they're literally recording. The subconscious is recording everything. Even when you're around children, you think they don't hear you. You think that they don't know what's happening. They do, right? But the job of the subconscious is to keep you right where you are. It is to keep you in a state of comfort. It's to keep you in a state of just convenience, just moving at the same pace all the time. It doesn't like things that change. It doesn't like when things go awry. It likes things very consistent, right? If it's consistent with the programming, it's okay. Anything that goes against the programming, it's not okay. And then there's some things that are going to happen that it's your brain or your subconscious is going to now start fighting against you. Anytime you start going against your own programming, then things start going against you. There is a name for this, right? The name is called the homeostatic impulse. The homeostatic impulse controls like your body temperature, breathing, heart rate, right? All which are then controlled by the autonomic nervous system, right? But all of these things are controlled by the subconscious, which is the homeostatic impulse, okay? So whenever you start to think about change, mentally, you will then have some challenges, right? The subconscious will then create this homeostatic impulse, and then it will send signals, and then it will do things that will cause you to not want to make changes, right? So you can be wanting to make a healthy change, like changing your diet, or instead of getting up and having having bagels and Pop-Tarts for breakfast every morning, if you've been doing that for the last 5 years or 2 years or 1 year, and then all of a sudden you want to make a change, right? The homeostatic impulse is going to kick in and say, hey, no, we need sugar, right? We need the Pop-Tart. We need the bagel. Make sure you put the cream cheese on it and make sure you layer it thick. That's what we like. That's what we're used to. The body knows how to digest it. We know how to process it. We know what to expect. You're changing stuff, right? So now the subconscious is going to start hitting you with cravings. It's going to start hitting you with the different things to get you to want to go get that thing, right? But you said, I want to make a change, okay? So anytime that we start to think about change, it will mentally have us start to make excuses. So if you want to start doing something healthy, or you want to start going out and taking a walk every morning, you will start making excuses. And a lot of times these excuses are not even your own. They are coming from your subconscious programming due to the homeostatic impulse. They are coming from the programming that has been in you and has been ingrained in you. And this is not part of the programming. So you're then going to then start making excuses, but they're not even excuses of your own. They're excuses of your subconscious trying to get you to stay normal. Because when you start then doing something extra, you start walking every day, it regulates heartbeat. It regulates breathing. So now it has to work more. It doesn't like to work harder. It likes to know what's coming so it can plan and prepare, right? So if you normally wake up at 6 a.m., it knows you wake up at 6 a.m. So when you wake up at 6 a.m. like normal, right, it's going to dump cortisol. It's going to start dumping a little bit of adrenaline, right? It's going to cause the autonomic nervous system to kick up. Heart rate increases. It does all of these things for you. Conversely, when you want to make a change, it will actually hurt you. And it's not doing it as a bad thing, but it wants to keep you where you are at. And this can be very good if you have good habits, but if you don't have good habits, this can be very bad, right? Not only does it mentally do things, right? It also brings up old negative memories, right? Times where you may have failed and you tried to do something. And then it tells you, hey, Stephen, we tried to do this before. And you didn't do good at it, right? That's not your own conscious thought. That is from the subconscious bringing up an old memory of a time that you had failed to get you to not go down that route of change. It's trying to keep you in homeostasis. It's trying to keep you even because it understands how to deal with that, right? Not only does it do things mentally, it also does things physically. So it can cause us anxiety. It can raise cortisol and stress levels way higher than what they should be. And it literally can make us feel sick. Not figuratively, but literally. You can literally begin to manifest illness. Like, have you ever been in a situation where someone asked you to do something and then, I don't know, let's say you didn't want to do it and then you literally felt sick? Like you got sick to your stomach because you're like, I really don't want to do this. Why do you think you got sick? It's not just nervousness. It is the physical manifestation or the physical response of the homeostatic impulse kicking in, giving you a very hard push, telling you, I don't want to do this, right? So a lot of times the reason that, things may be going awry or things may not be going well, it's not necessarily for something that you did or because you're lazy. You're not lazy. It's not because you are a failure. You're not a failure. It's not because you didn't try hard enough. You did try, right? It's because your subconscious has already had a set schedule and it likes to keep you there. And the fortunate but unfortunate thing is that as you age, it gets stronger and stronger and stronger, which means that it requires more work to then kind of break out of that. Some people have no idea what Encyclopedia Britannica is. That's correct. The Body Keeps Score, that's a great book. I've been having conversations with my body. That's fantastic. That's good too. Yeah, that's what I like, man. I hope y'all okay. I know this is a little bit different than what we normally see, but this is the type of stuff that I teach. And I think that it's really important to understand, like I said, why things happen. If you understand the why, and as someone mentioned, giving yourself grace, if you understand that it's not you, you're not doing anything because you're lazy. It's not happening just because you don't care. It's not happening because you don't love yourself, right? You got to be empathetic with yourself. There are designs that you have imparted in you that are stopping you from making changes, even if they are beneficial changes, because the conscious mind only controls about 5% of what you do and how you move and act. The subconscious controls 95% of everything that happens in your world, in your life, in your body, in your mind. So the programming is stronger than your own conscious thought. But there's a couple things that we can do, right? So I'm not going to so that is the why, okay? And I want people to understand that it's not that you may have tried something and failed because you just weren't good enough. It's because the mind is literally telling you, I don't want to do this. But that does not mean it's not good for you. And it doesn't mean that you can't create new habits. So that's important to kind of understand. So if you have gone into any fasting, or if you have tried to fast, or you have gone through a process of trying to change your diet, and you immediately, right, you guys have all experienced this. As soon as you start fasting, all of a sudden, everyone wants to offer you food at work. People want to invite you out to dinner. There's birthdays coming up. All of a sudden, all these things happen. Well, what if I told you that because of the mind, and we understand how powerful the mind is, the homeostatic impulse is doing things to then bring these things into your environment. There's no such thing as coincidence. Literally, there's literally no such thing as coincidence. So there are things that happen that we literally create, and they happen due to the subconscious. Sometimes also, there are times where we do get offered these things and we just block it out. We just don't think about it, or we accept them, but it really is not even a thing. But now, because we're making a change, all of a sudden we pay attention to it, right? All of a sudden we see it now as a threat, or the body picks it up as a threat. And then now it pays attention to it. It's a threat to a change that you're making, and now you pay attention to it. That's a whole different topic. But this also happens. Yeah, me and Chris are brothers. Right. So let's talk a little bit about how some of the challenges, right, and then how to kind of overcome them, right? So the number one, you have what's called, and this stuff you want to write down, you have comfort zone bias. So once again, the subconscious likes comfort, doesn't like change. So people tend to resist change to maintain a sense of familiarity, familiarness, right? And comfort. The mind favors routine and resists deviation from established habits. So anything that is comfortable, your body likes. It likes comfort, right? Your mind favors routine. It resists change. And anytime you try to deviate from it, your mind is going to fight against you, and your body will fight against you also. So there's some challenges, right? We live in a world where we enjoy comfort. We enjoy the luxury lifestyle. And there's studies out there that study the most luxurious people and people that live these luxurious lifestyles, and they actually found that people that live these luxurious lifestyles have a very big problem with illness, right? Because there's many factors: their diet, because of the food they have access to, and then also their low activity levels. So yeah, they're not necessarily going to work every day, but that's also the problem, because they're sitting home or they're just traveling and they're laying around, they're lounging, they're not doing anything. So there's many factors that go into that, but people that actually have a more luxurious life actually have higher risk. You have poverty, right, that have high risk, and you have the luxurious that have high risk, right? So there's extremes, and both of them, you would think, oh, if you have money, you have the best, you can get the best care, you can get the best yada yada yada. Well, that's true, but that's also part of their problem, because they have everything handed to them, or they can just buy everything instead of having to go and do certain things. Instead of going to the store and buying something yourself, you just have somebody go pick it up for you, right? You can do that because you live a luxurious lifestyle and you have the extra money. But that's also part of the problem, right? And conversely, if you don't have any money, you can't do anything, you can't go anywhere, and you just sit around the house. Maybe you go to work, hopefully, right? But we have comfort zone bias. This is an issue, right, that causes resistance. Number two, fear of failure. So the fear of not succeeding can literally paralyze individuals, preventing them from taking necessary steps to establish new habits. And they fear failure, and avoidance becomes a significant obstacle. So because we fear failure, it's easier to just avoid making those changes. And we just simply say it's easier to just not do it, because I'm afraid that I'm afraid that I'm going to fail. So it's easier just to take a step away and say, you know what, I'm just not going to try it. I'm not going to do it, right? I tried one of the AHA challenges, and I failed, or I heard it was difficult, or I don't think that I'm ready to start that yet, which is fear of potential failure, right? So these are things that are going to stop us, or the mind, once again, will then put these things in our brain. The homeostatic impulse will then tell you from your subconscious, it will go into the hard drive and pull up, right, comfort bias or fear of failure, and say, you don't want to do that. And you don't want to do that because you heard it was hard, because you didn't see results in other people that you think that you want to see in yourself. You think that you've tried everything else. You've tried every weight loss pill, every weight loss drug. You've tried everything else under the sun, and it didn't work. This isn't going to work either. So don't join the JR72. That doesn't make sense, right? Which is not true, but the way that we perceive things based upon our experiences will get us to then reach into the subconscious. We will extrapolate data that may or may not be true, and then we will recall it as if it is a fact, and then it will cause us to fear potential failure and not take action. I hope that makes sense, right? Instant gratification, number three. The brain is wired for immediate rewards. This is where we are at in 2024. We want everything right now. We don't want to work for anything. We want everything fast. We want it right now. And that's okay. We just need to understand how to navigate that. It's not about fighting against it, right, or going to battle with your own mind. It's really about, how can I navigate this, right? So we have to look at long-term benefits from the new habits, but they may be overshadowed by the allure of the instant gratification, making it difficult to sustain motivation. This is big. I'm going to read that one again. The brain is wired for immediate rewards. Long-term benefits from new habits may be overshadowed by the allure of instant gratification, making it difficult to sustain motivation, right? So let's break that down. What that basically is saying is that even though you know long-term the benefits are going to greatly outweigh the instant gratification, you decide, you know what, I'm not going to join the JR72, right? Because I don't know if this long term is going to work. I don't know if it's going to work at all. I would rather save my couple dollars, and I would rather make sure I have enough money to DoorDash for the next 3 days, or I'd rather make sure I have the money to do X, Y, and Z, right? The instant gratification of something right now, right, causes us to then fear or lose the allure of the long-term benefits, right? Which makes it very difficult to sustain motivation. So we also can have motivation. Let's say we do try something, we do join the challenge, or you do start fasting on your own, and you get on the scale, and the first day you drop 3 pounds, the next day you're down another 3, right? And then all of a sudden, day 4, day 5 hits, and now you're at 1 pound, and right, and now you're at 1 pound, and you're just like, I don't understand what's happening. Why'd everything stop? And then now there's no longer that instant gratification. There's no longer that dopamine that's hitting, right, for that achievement. And then you start to lose motivation, even though you know long-term this is beneficial. Long-term, these things are going to be great for me. The short-term is now, the short-term gratification or the instant gratification is no longer there, because you're not getting on the scale and seeing 3-4 pounds every day. Now you're seeing 2 and you're seeing 1. And you start to lose motivation. Even when you understand that if you are traditionally looking to lose weight, if you lose 2 to 3 pounds a week, traditionally, right, the gym, exercise, yada, 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 you're like, oh, that's great numbers, right? So like we are losing way more with fasting, but we now have, our brain has now picked it up as, no, with fasting, you know, 5 pounds, 3 pounds, 2 pounds, right? And the instant gratification of those big numbers is no longer there. We lose motivation for fasting, and we'll decide, well, I'd rather go with something that's more comfortable. I'd rather go with something that allows me to eat and allows me to work out, but then because it's comfortable. The subconscious says, I'm cool with that. We can do it that way. But you've tried that 1,000 times and it has been yet to work, right? So our subconscious will choose the irrational over rational. It will choose the irrational over what's actually factual. It literally just decides, it just literally grabs data. This worked, this didn't work. And that's the route that we want to go, and that's the route we want to push you, even if you know consciously something is good for you, right? There are times it feels like self-sabotage. Well, here's the thing. I understand what you're saying. It's not self-sabotage, right? It's not you consciously making that decision. It is your subconscious. It is the beliefs of your programming from your own experiences, or you have picked up experiences from other people. You're in the Facebook group and you see people that have failed, or you see people that have had negative results, whatever, and your subconscious picks that up. And then you will find yourself self-sabotaging, but it's not you, it's not the conscious, it's the subconscious, right? This is when we have to kind of give ourselves grace. All right, let's continue. So let's talk about a few strategies, right? So number one, strategies to overcome resistance. Number one, gradual exposure to change. So instead of making crazy drastic changes, you introduce modifications gradually, right? This allows the mind to adapt without triggering the strong resistance response. We understand that strong resistance response, once again, is the homeostatic impulse. I keep saying that so you guys understand what that word means, right? But if you do things gradually, right, this helps our mind or our subconscious, it tricks it. It helps to kind of sneak under the radar. This is why when Chris created the 7-day prep, it starts off with, hey, we're not really making any big changes. Just don't eat breakfast. Make sure you drink your water. That's it, right? That's a gradual change. And then slowly we gradually change. And then we take away a meal and we start taking away some of the foods that we don't necessarily want. And then we take away 2 meals and we go to 1 meal. And then we take the 1 meal and we go to juice, right? And then we just continue to work through that process. And as we work that process, we then find that everything just simply works. It's so much easier to move into fasting when you go through the preparation because it's a very simple change. It's gradual, right? So the subconscious doesn't start against you or fight against you. But if you decide that you want to go to the gym, you want to change your diet, you want to change your life, you want to do all this stuff, you want to build muscle, you want to burn fat, you want to start working with a trainer, it's too much. It's too much. And this is why we fail. It's not because you weren't motivated or you didn't have the drive, right? Give yourself grace. It's not what it was. Your subconscious is actively fighting against the programming that has been there. And there are certain things you have to do to help work against it so that way you can then slowly start changing habits, right? Implementation. Start with small, manageable adjustments. Adjust your routine. Incrementally increase the difficulty or intensity of the new habit or experience. Right. So if you said, I want to start walking every day, it's good for my heart. Right. They found that people that walk 15 minutes every day, have 20% less chance of getting cancer. So I want to start walking every day, but I want to walk 30 minutes a day. Okay. Well, maybe 30 minutes is a little much to start off with. Just focus on getting outside for 10 minutes. Go take 1 lap around the block. Right. Just do that every night for the week. After dinner, go out and walk. Helps with digestion. Go out and walk for 10 minutes. And you will find that as you start doing that, you start craving it, right? And then now 10 minutes turns into 20. And then now 20 turns into 30. And then now you've been doing that for a few weeks. And all of a sudden you decide, man, maybe I'll get out here and try to jog a little bit. You start getting a little confident. You get out here and try to jog a little bit, right? And then all of a sudden now you find yourself out there 30, 45 minutes to an hour running after 2 or 3 months. And you've slowly made new changes. Your body starts to change. You start to lose weight. You start to feel happier, right? All of a sudden, your stress starts to come off because one little change turned into a big change, right? Build a solid foundation before tackling more challenging aspects. So starting small, right? Building these small foundations, doing these small little changes, then they can work up to bigger things. And then when you have a new habit of your running, then you can start changing the diet, right? Or then you can start maybe saying, hey, maybe I want to go to the gym, right? Then you can start adding and adding more. So the JR72 is it's the very start of fasting. And it is a great way to really start the process for your new year. So if you have goals for the year, this is one of the ways that you can really kind of ease into it. You don't necessarily want to jump in both hands and feet and try to do 100 days. And, you don't want to go crazy. Start simple. Juice fasting is much easier than water fasting. You still lose weight. You go through a detoxification process. You're going to feel a lot better. Your mind's going to be more clear. And then you can continue and then add on top of it as the year goes on, right? Make sure I'm still here. He was dropped this link in here. I think, did Chris hop in here? Man, he's sneaky. Somebody in here being sneaky. I appreciate it. All right. Let's we'll go ahead and finish up. Let's wrap up. So 2, embracing failure as a learning opportunity, right? So if you shift your mindset towards viewing things or failures as opportunities for growth, it makes it very easy to accept failure, or as Chris will say, falling or failing forward. Or maybe that's Jasmine. Chris, my bad, right? But failing forward. So failure, you only fail when you give up. So tonight, you guys will hear me. If you guys are in the JR72 and you're going to be in a live here in the next hour, you're going to hear me say that you only fail when you actually give up. If you have a day where you just don't do well, or if you break your fast and it's day 2, well, if you do not pick back up throughout the rest of the challenge, you could consider that failure, right? But if you have a day when you struggle and you get back on it, you didn't fail. That's an opportunity for growth, right? You can look at why you decided to eat. What was the stress that you were under? What emotions were you feeling? And then you journal them. And then after you write them down, you go back a day or two later, and then you look at it and say, okay, this is what I was feeling. And then I was overwhelmed. Because I was overwhelmed, I felt like I needed to eat. I felt like I needed to eat something probably crunchy. If you were feeling anxious, you probably went to crunchy. If you were feeling like you needed love, or you feel like you needed a hug, or you feel like you needed, or if you were lonely, you probably went to something bready or chewy, right? You have these emotions and different foods that are linked to your needs and your wants. But that's a different lesson for another day, right? But all you have to do is focus on failing forward. And at the end of the day, the only time you truly fail is when you literally give up. You say, I'm done, and throw my hands up in the air, walk away. I'm out of here. That could be considered failure. Even that you could still learn from that, right? You can still look at that and say, well, why did I do that? You probably have a past experience that you have done this before in the past, and it's easier for you to just walk away from something than to actively have to deal with it. So the subconscious is going to then say, yeah, just walk away. And you're going to just agree and you're going to walk away, right? Reframe failures as valuable lessons to contribute to personal development. Celebrate small victories and progress, fostering a positive outlook. Right? This can be on the scale. Instead of saying, oh, I only lost a pound today, you can say, yes, I lost a pound today, right? Small achievements. Or saying, you know what? Oh, Stephen, I only got through 2 days of my fast. And then the next day at like 12 o'clock, I ended up eating. But instead of framing it that way, you can say, you know what? I got through 2.5 days of fasting. I felt really good. I struggled a little bit, but I'm starting back up after the refeed, right? All you have to do is reframe it, right? And understand the why behind why we do these things. It's not particularly you. You are not bad. You are not wrong. You have not done anything to necessarily hurt yourself. A lot of what's happening is due to the programming that you have picked up, right? And then now the subconscious just is putting it in repeat. It's just keep you on that pattern. And that's okay, because we can retrain the subconscious to now find new patterns. And that's what we're talking about here, right? So the JR72 is a great way to start creating new patterns. This is why, listen, you guys got to join. Number 3, delayed gratification techniques. So develop strategies to counteract the allure of instant gratification or instant rewards by emphasizing the long-term benefits of a new habit. Yes, let's keep it 100. I want to fast because I want to lose weight. I want to fast because I want to look good. I want to fast because I want that girl. I want that guy. I want that body. I want to get on the beach this summer. I want to be able to put on them short shorts and have my, have my quads popping and looking good. I want to be able to get in the pool, you know what I'm saying? And my chest is poking out, you know what I'm saying? The girl's looking over at me, right? Like, I want to look good. I want to fast for a reason. Maybe I have an event where I have to go do some speaking. I have a client that I'm working with right now that she has a speaking engagement coming up. And she's like, I want to fast because I usually work with these people digital. And now I have a speaking engagement coming up. And I want to show them that I know what I'm talking about. So I need to lose some weight, right? Whatever the reason is, that's okay, right? That's the long-term goal. But we have to simply break those down into smaller steps so that way we then can remember the long-term goal, but then also we can give ourselves a little bit of instant gratification as well. That means that even if you lose half a pound, you celebrate that. That's half a pound. That's half a pound in the right direction, right? You have a day where you drink all of your juice. That is something to celebrate, right? Visualization, set clear goals for desired long-term outcomes. So of course, we should be writing all of our goals down. Implement a reward system tied to milestones rather than immediate results. So every 20 pounds that you lose, maybe you go out and you buy yourself a shirt, or maybe you go buy that shirt just a little bit smaller than you want it, right? Or that's comfortable so that you can continue to work into it. Obviously, we don't want to reward ourselves with food, but this is a way that we can implement the short-term implement the short-term gratification, and then we can keep that up. We can satisfy that need for the short-term or instant gratification, and then it continues to help us get to our long-term goals, right? And then the last one, practice mindfulness to increase awareness of impulse urges and redirect focus to long-term projects, right? Basically what that's saying is that whenever you feel as though you are getting off track, then you want to sit and you want to focus on what your goal is. What is the goal that you're working on? Why are you doing this? What's the purpose of it? Focus on that and the long-term goal, and then it will allow you to stay mentally focused as you move along that process. So I really do appreciate you all. Once again, it did go a little bit longer than I expected, but I don't know. Somehow I keep, somehow I do this to myself all the time. So I hope that you all got some valuable information. And oh, I'm referring to the statement made about food cravings, crunchy. Yeah, that is. So I spoke about that. I did that speech at the retreat, and I have. It's going to be in my app, which is not. It's not there yet, but it's a whole thing on emotional intelligence. I told you that's why I guys teach, but I know some of you may have came here late, you and missed it. So, I've had issues with daily weighing myself. Do you recommend a schedule for weigh-ins? Once a week, because now everyone's a little different. If you feel as though a daily weigh-in is actually good for you because it keeps you motivated, and you know that you understand the shrink week, you understand that you're not going to drop every single day, and you understand the value of looking at the average weight, right? So if you lost 10 pounds over the span of 5 days, but the first 2 days you lost 4 pounds apiece, and then the last 3 days you lost 2 pounds, right? If you are the type of person that doesn't understand really how averages work and that doesn't work for you, you don't want to weigh in every day, right? Because it will discourage you. If you understand that, okay, well, on average, I lost 2 pounds a day, I lost 10 pounds over 5 days, I'm happy with that, right? And if that type of stuff motivates you, then absolutely you can weigh in every day. But in general, I think that a good schedule would be once per week in general. So even if you're fasting on a 3-1 schedule or a rolling schedule, this, of course, also encompasses your refeed day and then your refasting day. So then you see the over total losses for that week. So because sometimes you get on the scale and after that refeed, even if you ate well, then you see that, 2 pounds gain or whatever it is, depending on what you ate, it gets very demotivating. So I don't typically suggest getting on the scale after a refeed. But I would say probably once a week, unless you understand averages, like really understand, and it doesn't demotivate you. I like to weigh in to see what I ate affected me. That's a great thing to do also, right? But once again, this is you have to just simply understand yourself. That works for me as well. I do that also. I love data. I love collecting information, so that works for me, but I don't suggest that for everybody. It's expected, Stephen. Much appreciated. All right, me going over. I say 30 minutes and then it's an hour. If I say it, just don't believe me. It's probably going to be an hour. But I start getting worked up. I start getting passionate. Like, I love talking about this type of stuff. And I really appreciate you guys sitting here and listening. All right. Pastor Mike always brings the word, inspiration, positivity. It's Sunday, man. I said I was taking you out of church. All right, good deal. So I'll let you guys go because we have the next live here in an hour. Thank you very much for joining me. Once again, this, if you didn't catch the beginning of this call, please go rewatch watch whatever you missed because the first part of this was very crucial to understanding how we got to where we got to and understanding how the brain works and understanding the homeostatic impulse, right? If you understand why something is happening, you can wrap your mind around it, and then it makes it much more easier to make changes in the future. But if you don't understand why something happens, you just know it's happened, it makes you feel as though you're lost. It makes you feel alone. And that's really not the way that we should feel or want to feel. It makes it very difficult to heal in an environment where you feel alone. So once again, this is the last call for the JR72. The live is going to be tonight. So get in this evening. If you don't get in before 7, that's okay. You still have the rest of the evening to join. I am going to do more calls like this, lives during that challenge. So if this type of information, if you've been in challenges before and you're just like, well, you know, I could probably do it on my own, hey, that's completely fine, right? I absolutely love that. Go for it. But if this specific type of information was valuable to you, if you felt like it was valuable, then I will personally be doing a few different lives specifically about the mind, how things work. We're going to be talking about emotions. I'm also going to talk about juice and a bunch of stuff as well, but I'm specifically adding this type of stuff to my content that I'm going to be delivering during this challenge because I think it's something that a lot of people need. And somebody asked me to. So I said, I'll do it. Okay. So that's all I have for you. Thank you once again for joining me. I do appreciate you all being here. I hope that you did get some value. I hope to see you in the JR72. If you have any questions, of course, absolutely reach out. If you have Instagram and you don't follow me at Steven. Follow me at Steven Michael Wellness email. But follow me on Instagram at Steven Michael Wellness, and we're gonna get going, man. So once again, I appreciate you all. Have a good night, and I'll see you guys in about 50 minutes in the JR72 live. Peace.